Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Steve, and one of my roles within Santa Sofa Rescue is as the Home Check Coordinator. To comply with the rehoming licence requirements, we have to provide training for our volunteers on how to carry out certain aspects of the rehoming process. This short video will give you an insight into the home check or home visit. Those terms are interchangeable. As we're based in Aberdeenshire, we rely on our volunteers to carry out home checks in parts of the country that are just too far for myself and Nadia to get to. All the home checks need to be carried out to the same standard as set by Santa Sofa Rescue, and the best way to ensure this is for everyone to have the same training. So once a match has been made between a dog and a prospective adopter, they will then submit an application form. After the application has been discussed, and if it's approved, we then move forward to the home check stage. So why do we carry out a home check? Why is it important? Well, the first reason is to make sure that everything on the application form is true and accurate. Secondly, is to ensure that that home is suitable for a dog and those adopters are suitable for that particular dog. And thirdly, it's a chance for the rescue to meet the adopters face to face and for them to meet us. And that normally happens over a cup of tea. Now we move on to arranging the home check itself. Now normally it would be myself and or Nadia who would carry out the home check. But if distances are just too much of a problem, then we call upon one of our volunteer home checkers to carry it out for us, one that lives within a reasonable distance of the applicant. If no one is available, or the distances are just too great, then we would carry out a video home check. Once we've established that someone is available, then we would forward them a copy of the application form and a copy of the home check evaluation form. Now this would be pre-populated with all the information that the applicant has given us. It would then be left to the home check volunteer to arrange a suitable time and date with the applicant to carry out the home check. So we've arrived at the applicant's home to carry out our home check, and there's quite a lot you can tell from the outside just when you arrive. If we look around, that there is a high rear fence here which is padlocked, and if we look to the front garden, which is secure, however the gate and the wall and the fence is much lower than the rear. So this should be taken into consideration perhaps with regard to the type of dog that's being rehomed here. So let's go inside and have a look. So now we've arrived and we've met the applicant. Now, always offer to remove your outdoor footwear when you arrive. If the applicant says it's okay, then that's fine. Go by what they say. So the next thing would be to take some pictures with their permission of the outside areas. And this is possibly a good time to do it before you get settled into the actual discussion about the home check and the dog. So now we've moved round to the back garden and we're going to take some pictures or even a video with the owner's permission so that we can send this back with the home check evaluation form. Here we've got very high gates there. This one is smaller, but that only blocks off this area, and behind there is high fencing. If we move round, we have a wall here which is kind of medium height, but it drops off to be quite low across at this end. So this is a potential issue that you're looking at with a larger dog who would possibly be able to escape over that side. The fencing moves round and this is reasonably high across this side, and larger dogs wouldn't be able to get over there. There's plenty of room in this garden for dogs to play or just roam around. So we've come back inside, we've had a look around outside and we've taken our pictures and videos. So now we're going to have a look at the living areas inside the house. This is probably going to be where the dog spends the majority of its time. We do not require you to go looking in people's bedrooms. We feel this may be intrusive. Unless the applicant specifically offers to show you around and includes the bedrooms, or you hear something that may be of interest, say a dog barking or scratching at a door, then we do not require you to look in there. So let's have a look around here and see what we can see. Well, first off, this is a fairly good sized room. This could accommodate pretty much any size of dog in here. There's a fire guard there, which is a good safety feature, especially if there's a young dog. And we have hard flooring here. This is always going to be a bonus because a Santa Sofa dog is generally going to be not house trained when it arrives. So this makes life much easier. So we carry on through here, big kitchen, and we come into another room through here, and we see that this owner uses a crate. This is the sleeping area for their dogs. So this is another section on your home check evaluation form, which will come up later on. So moving on through, we've got another large room in here, and we can see that there are 2 dogs in here. And here we have a Santa Sofa dog on a sofa. So the rescue really does live up to its name. So what we're also looking at as we walk around, not just the size of the living area, but any potential hazards, and we look for that in the garden as well. Anything the dog could hurt itself on, or anything that it could get trapped in. So we're sat down for a chat with our prospective adopters. We've got our cup of tea, and we have our home visit evaluation form in front of us. The first parts of this will be filled in for you. The dog's name, your name, the applicant's information. The next bit we move on to is the property type, which we will already have been told whether it's a house or a flat or whatever else. Does it have a garden? You've already been out for a look. Is it a shared garden, for example, a block of flats where multiple neighbours share the same garden? Is it secure? Even if it's not a deal breaker. They may have plans in place. They may be extending the fencing, making it higher, or even putting fencing in. They may have thought of all this before. That is something to discuss with them. Is it rented or owned? They will have declared that on the application form. And if it's rented, at some point we will require to see the landlord's permission to keep a dog there. Generally, council houses allow 1 dog without prior permission. If it's any more, then the council will have to approve that. Private landlords can make their own rules on how many dogs, if any, can be at a property. The last thing we want is a dog to be returned to us because the owner didn't have permission in the first place to keep a dog there. The next section is about other family members. Now, obviously, if this is a person living on their own, then this section doesn't apply. We've added a couple of extra questions into the application form recently. The first one is to confirm that all household members are on board with this application. The second one asks for details of all the family members and their relationship to the applicant. Now, we've had dogs returned simply because they've been deemed not to be a good fit. Now, this has always been driven by the partner of the primary applicant, never the applicant themselves. So your home visit is a good opportunity for you to gauge how that partner is. Are they enthusiastic? Do they ask pertinent questions? Are they chatty? What's their body language like? All these things are good indicators as to whether this is going to be a successful adoption. Are there children in the household? Does the family have a dog? And if so, are those children able to behave properly around that dog? Are they respectful of the dog? If they don't have one already, do other family members bring their dogs to visit? Try and find out how the children behave around dogs. Now we move on to the part where any other pets are in the house. On their application form, they will have declared whether they have other pets, dogs, cats, or anything else. Now, Nadia and myself have been to a home visit where there was a tame owl flying around in the house, but that is very unusual. So, are the other pets well groomed? If you see one walking about behind me looking decidedly hairy, I promise she has a groomer's appointment booked on Tuesday. Are they microchipped and registered? Do they have an address tag, which is a legal requirement outside of the house? Are the dogs vaccinated? And are they neutered? All our dogs will be neutered before they come to their new adopters, except in the case of young dogs who can't be neutered before they travel, and separate arrangements will be made for them. Is there any other information? Are the dogs friendly? Are cats friendly? Anything you think is of note, please feel free to write it down. Now we move on to some general questions that we discuss with the prospective adopters. The first one is, who will be the primary caregiver? Will it be one particular adult in the household who's responsible for the dog's welfare and training? Will it be a joint responsibility? Next, where will the dog sleep? Well, if you see behind me, this is my house and I use a crate, and my two girls are perfectly happy sleeping in a crate. They go in there themselves with the door left open. Not everyone agrees with crates. That's their personal opinion. They may have a dog bed in the kitchen or anywhere else downstairs in the living area. They may have a dog bed in the bedroom. What we don't encourage is taking a rescue dog straight onto the bed to sleep with you when it arrives. This can lead to behavioural problems later on, which will need to be addressed. Discuss collection from the airport. Now, latterly, we have been offering a collection option in Aberdeenshire. For central Scotland and southern Scotland, there will be somebody at Glasgow Airport to hand over the dogs. If people are further north and they would prefer to have the Aberdeenshire collection option, that's perfectly fine. We will arrange that. It's been a two-way system in the last couple of flights that we've done. Who will look after the dog when they go on holiday? We're not being nosy. We just like to know that they have thought of these eventualities. Nobody is against kennels. If you find a good kennels, they're worth their weight in gold. They may have family members who will look after the dog. They may have a dog sitter who comes in and stays in the home. We just like to know that they have thought about this issue. What will happen to the dog if you move overseas? Well, people don't generally have plans to move overseas if they're adopting a dog. However, it does happen. And what we would like to know is that the dog is going with them. We don't want the dog being returned to the rescue because they have decided that they were going to move overseas and then they couldn't take the dog with them. Simple as that. The last question in this section is, under what circumstances would you give back your dog? Now, that's a really subjective question, and there are no real right or wrong answers to this one. Some people might not be able to tolerate a dog who is aggressive if they have children, although we would hope that they would address this issue with a behaviourist or a trainer. Some people would say if they became too ill to look after the dog and they had no other family members who would take it, no one can predict that happening. What we don't want is a dog that's just going to be returned because they didn't think it was a good fit for them. You will find the majority of prospective adopters will say there are no circumstances they would give the dog back. But until they're actually in that situation, it's very difficult to predict. The last section of the form is a discussion forum between yourself and the prospective adopters. There's information in here about the payments, about Facebook groups, and about WhatsApp group chats, and what will happen if they're approved to adopt a dog. All the information is here, and you can give it to them. Also, it opens up any questions for yourself that they might have on the process and where it goes from here. The last box on this form is a recommendation from yourself. Is it a yes or is it a no? Now, the decision is made by Nadia. She will act on what information she receives back. If your recommendation is a yes, but she perhaps finds that there are other grounds to perhaps reject the application, then that's her call. Generally, a gut feeling from yourself, if it's a yes or no, is fine. But don't tell the adopter what your decision is on that. Leave that till later. The last point is just to say that your safety is our priority. If you feel at any time that you are uncomfortable or in danger, especially if you're a female on your own, please make your excuses and leave. We will not tolerate any abuse or threats towards any of our volunteers. So you finish your home visit. As you're leaving, take a few minutes to sit in your car. Make some notes while it's still fresh in your memory. It's better to write too much down than to perhaps forget something that might be important later on. So just to sum up, this should be a pleasant and happy experience for both parties. That's what we aim for. They should have a good impression of Santa Sofa Rescue, and you should have a good idea of whether this is the right home for that dog. So thank you very much for watching this, and I hope it's given you a few pointers towards carrying out a home visit.